And Donna and Leonie, for your benefit, if you want to message me at any time, there is a chat bar. It's about halfway along the bottom of your screen. And you can either message me directly so that others can't see your message. You just change it from everyone to Kayley. If you message me directly, then I won't identify where the question comes from. But if you're happy for it to be an open question, just leave it on everyone and we'll be able to see your questions. When we have a small group like this, it's absolutely fine for you to just put your hand up or just ask us a question verbally. You don't need to follow the formal chat, if you like. And in fact, we really like it when you interact because it gives us real people to talk to and gives us a lot of context for what it is we're talking about. So we're going to get started, but I do just want to thank you, both of our members, for joining us this morning because, like I said, it does give, it makes our conversation real. And each week we're joined by our panel. So we've got Leslie Williams, Cara Dale and Sandra Magann, who are kind enough to give up their time and to give us updates from various different perspectives around the COVID-19 crisis and how it affects our local community, as well as how it affects our business women in our network. So big welcome. My name's Kayley. I'm the Vice President for the Business Women's Network. And what we're going to do this morning is start with Leslie. So Leslie, if you can give us an update from a health and community and business point of view for our members and our listeners, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure, thanks Kayley. Thanks for having me again, and hello to all the HBWN members. Great to be able to connect during these pretty challenging times. So I just wanted to give you an update of where we are from a COVID perspective in terms of statistics. So across our local health districts, we have 50 confirmed cases. So that our local health district is basically Port Macquarie to Coffs Harbour. And out of those 50 cases, 46 people have now recovered, which is really great news. So across the state, our recovery rate for COVID is about 76%. But what we want to do is to make sure that we can increase the testing. So that's both at a state level and at a local health district level. So the real message to the community is that if you have any symptoms at all, just a runny nose or just a cough, go and get it tested. Because not only are you getting confirmation for yourself about whether you're positive or negative for COVID, but what you're doing is enabling us to gather information, which is really, really important at this stage. And obviously, the second is make sure you download the COVID Safe app, because that is really going to help in determining how we come out of the restrictions. The other really important thing to know is that a lot of people ask about where the actual cases are, and obviously for privacy reasons, health are very careful about how they do identification of positive cases. But what we released last week in New South Wales were heat maps, where you can go online and see which postcodes have positive cases. So for example, if you type in 244, it will come up at 13 cases. Then it will see how many you've recovered and how many hospitalised and so on. And if you put up 2445, which is Bonnie Hills and Lake Better, you'll see there's been 5 cases. So it will tell you how many active cases there are. And in terms of, if I get the messages, download the COVID app, that will help us come out of restrictions. And secondly, make sure if you're unwell, you know someone unwell, great, and COVID, that's important. In terms of restrictions, there have been a few slight changes. Bearing in mind the public health order still remains in place. That is, you know, you can only be out for one of the reasons, whether you're going to work, for medical purposes, and so on. What we did change is part of that order, which says that now 2 adults can visit another household, and that seems to work quite well over the weekend. And you know, hopefully people can continue to think about when they go and visit other people. You know, if they're older people, obviously really consider that carefully. And, you know, again, make sure you social distance. That's just really important. There are a number of new initiatives out in terms of financial support, particularly for people, seniors and for people on low incomes. If you know anybody in that situation, there is additional financial support specifically for paying your energy bills. And so that's really important that people understand that. But, you know, again, can't reiterate enough. Got symptoms, download the COVID Safe app.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And I'm just mindful that your internet connection is really tricky down there at the moment. It could be the wind as well. So I think your key messages came across loud and clear. So it's about our local statistics, the importance of testing for any symptoms at all, the importance of downloading the app, the availability of the heat map to show us where the cases are. You clarified the restrictions for us and gave us some information about some financial advice, some financial support that's available. So I do appreciate that. We might have some questions for you as well, but both Donna and Leonie, if you are struggling to understand anything that Leslie is sharing with us, please feel free to get clarification, because she doesn't always talk like that. Unfortunately, it is a tricky connection, and sometimes you're coming in and out a little bit less.
Right.
But your key messages were really well understood, so appreciate that. We're going to go now to Sandra. Sandra is going to give us an update from her perspective, and what's really useful for us, Leonie and Donna, is she's been giving us a bit of a summary of the types of things that she's been working on with our members and with our community in general regarding their businesses during these challenging times. So we'll go to you, Sandra, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Magann. So my business is Seachange Accounting, and we've been helping our clients over the last 3 to 4 weeks with the government stimulus measures, which include JobKeeper as well as the cash flow boosts that are starting to come in. So over the last week, we've been having a look at some alternative tests that the government announced to help establish whether your turnover has declined by the required 30%. We've had a few businesses that actually qualify in situations where they wouldn't have using the basic tests, which was just to have a look at the same period last year and compare that. So we're finding that quite a few qualify, and particularly in situations of new businesses where they haven't had 12 months of trading, and then also businesses where they've experienced significant growth over the last year. So it's not appropriate to compare to the same period for last year. Today's an important day. It's the first day that we can actually apply for reimbursement of the payment. So once the process of enrolling has been completed, identifying your employees, making sure that they're paid, and we're encouraging single touch payroll so that this information feeds through to the ATO. Today's the first day where you can actually go in and do your monthly reporting and apply to have those JobKeeper payments refunded and transferred. So you can do this through the ATO business portal or through your accountant or tax advisor. Some of the requirements are that you have to report your actual turnover for April, as well as your forecasted turnover for the month of May. And you do this using the same basis that you measured your 30% decline. So whether that's cash or accruals, you must use the same basis for that. And you also need to reconfirm the eligibility of your employees and nominate the numbers, as well as if you are nominating a business participant, you have to identify them using tax file number and other information. There was also an extension granted, I think it was last Monday afternoon, so that you've got till now, till the 8th of May to pay your employees. Previously, that was the 30th of April, so that's been extended. So if you've identified eligible employees, but you've missed paying the first 2 fortnights in April, you've still got until the 8th of May, which is this Friday, to make sure that they're paid the minimum $1,500 a fortnight. There was an announcement during the week as well that there's a task force that's been developed in conjunction with the ATO and the Australian Federal Police, and particularly they're looking at schemes where people have either done something to qualify them and to meet that 30% decline. And some of that might be deferring your sales or bringing them forward into a period just to meet that requirement.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Sandra. So, so lots to take in there from what Sandra shared with us regarding the cash flow boost, the JobKeeper, alternate tests, the option now to apply for the first payment, as well as some extensions that have been announced. So it's constantly moving, isn't it, Sandra? So I appreciate you keeping us on top of things. And welcome to Barb as well. How are you? Okay, so Cara, anything to add? And if you can just start by introducing yourself and giving us an overview of the types of things that you've been working on lately, that would be great, thanks.
No problems. Thank you so much, Kayley, and thank you to the Hastings Business Network. It's really, our business is about firstly sharing knowledge of making the big wheel of government work effectively with a small wheel of business. And as both yourself and Sandra and Leslie have pointed out, it is evolving on a daily basis. So as a business owner, it's very hard to find the relevant information, and it's also depending on where you are in the cycle of whether you're now in a recovery plan strategy or if you're still coming to grips with what COVID-19 has done to your business, will depend on what opportunities you can tap into. But there's well over, as I said, 35 different opportunities across both the state and federal government. And as well as that, there's many other opportunities or discussions about various licenses have been waived for up to 12 months. There's also more information that's come out in relation to expectations of commercial landlords and commercial tenants renegotiation. And that's quite important because it's given more information, and it talks about each party's responsibility, because I have heard that some landlords have not been willing to negotiate. But now those guidelines are well out, they're quite articulated, and it talks about the expectations of both parties. And in those conversations, if you do need some rental adjustment or you've had to close your business because of the health orders, what we've primarily been doing is working with, one of the things we've always said is don't self-exclude. So if you aren't ticking the box, and Sandra's pointed out with the task force, it's better to ask the question, because both levels of government and the departments that are facilitating these programs do have an opportunity where you can ask for special consideration, or you can ask a question specific, because you are ticking declarations that are legally have consequences. And if you are outside the box, or at some point it may catch up with you. So it's always better to have a conversation. So we are doing a lot of conversations for businesses locally with the department, and helping them work through those special consideration options rather than trying to go down the path, because the government has clearly given everyone an opportunity to have a conversation and not to self-exclude, but to talk about what has happened to their business. And both levels of government have really tried to put a big broad brush on the impacts of both bushfire and COVID-19. And then if you're slightly out of those broad brush strokes, there is an opportunity to have conversations. So, for this week, if we're looking at businesses starting their recovery plans, there's quite a lot of information now that you would start to drill down to understand, do I have to pay my licenses that are due in September or October? Because you would be working on cash flow forecasts. Now I understand my legal responsibilities if I'm renegotiating my commercial lease. So I can now have a more detailed conversation with the landlord. And then there's also the bushfire funding that's still available. And COVID-19, the $10,000 working capital, that's due to close on the 1st of June. So having a look at that in the next couple of weeks is whether you are applicable for that $10,000 working capital is also a good thing to do. So it's quite, now from a business perspective, you now need to articulate and work out exactly what opportunities are available and factor those into your cash flow as part of your recovery plan.
Great. Thank you so much, Cara. Lots of practical tips there that that we all need to be aware of. There's a lot to navigate there in terms of opportunities, both from state and federal government perspective. So thanks for everything that you're doing to help us stay across all of that, because every business is different and there's lots available, but sometimes it can be really overwhelming. So I really appreciate that. Okay, so what we're going to do is go to questions from the group. As I said before, if you do want to ask questions verbally, that's absolutely fine. Just either raise your hand or wave to me or something so that I can go to you. If you prefer to ask a question in the chat box, then it's basically halfway along the bottom of your screen. So have we got any questions from the group to start off with?
Hi there. My questions are probably unanswerable in this forum. They're mostly the accounting type questions around eligibility and in the grey zones. So I'll just wait to hear what everyone else has to say, really.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much, Leonie.
Okay.
Is that your hand, Barb, or you just need to take yourself off mute? Yeah.
Just to fill everyone in, this Alex has joined. Hi, Alex. Yes, my husband Laurie and I, and particularly Laurie, we have a vending machine business, and we've dropped about 80% in turnover, and of course a lot of the places are closed and things like that. As we emerge out of this, we've found that a lot of people are now not wanting to use cash because of the germs and things like that, and we have found that have moved some of our machines just to take notes. Some of the old machines just take coins, but we wanted to do more like the tap and go. We've looked at that, and it is quite an expensive process to change over those machines. But in any grant that might be coming through, would the changeover process, that's probably like $1,000 per machine, be something that could be available? Because we when the $5 and the $10 notes, $20 notes came in with the lovely new thing down the middle, and which is just great, and I love our new notes, but of course the machines don't take it. So they just spit it out. So then we have to upgrade all of our machines to take those. And that's a process per machine to actually rejig that whole thing again. So we've taken a hit when that happened as well. When the bushfires were on, Laurie couldn't get to certain places. And now with the COVID, you know, of course, he can't get into a lot of those places. So is there, from people's knowledge, is there anything that could help us in that regard?
Okay, well, that definitely sounds like something Cara could answer, because it sounds like you're looking for some sort of boost or funding or something. Is that something that you can answer, Cara?
So there are a number of initiatives that have come out, and there's some that have been announced but not articulated. Basically what Barbara is saying is she needs to re-engineer her business model for the post-COVID normality, if that makes sense. So there are a couple of programs at the moment. They're at a federal level. And it's about, and I don't know how many machines you have, it's capped at about $25,000. It's delivered by the federal government, and it's about the re-engineering. Mm-hmm. So, Barbara, what I can do, and I can send some stuff to Kayley just on this particular program, but it's quite an unusual name. Because your machines are selling sort of food, or is that confectionery? Is that what you're?
Yes, that's right. Drinks, snacks, lollies, that sort of things.
Yeah. So there is also, as I said, the government federally and state is well aware that a lot of industries will need to do some re-engineering or some adjustments. Mm-hmm. And there's always conversations happening. So it is an evolution, but at the moment there is only one potentially. We would need to fully understand your food, sort of how your business works. And I can send some information to you on that. But it's definitely something the government, from my conversations that I've had, and maybe Leslie can verify it too, they are understanding that some industries will have to change post-COVID, and there is a financial implication. And the goal of all government is that they want businesses and our economy to continue. So, it's making... You might be one story, but then there may be another 10, 50 or 100 similar like businesses. And as soon as they start hearing more and more of the same issue, then it becomes a collective that the government can put a package out potentially on that issue.
Yes, so true. And because a lot of us have got used to contactless touching of anything, then as time goes on, to go back to what we were doing before often becomes not the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's no if the technology, you can't buy a widget off the shelf and you have to re-engineer it to put it onto your machines. There may be another avenue to look at too if it needs to be customized. Like, I don't know if you can instantly take out the coin component and just put on the tap technology, or whether there needs to be some sort of re-engineering or something else put into the machine. Like, I don't know if it's like changing a tyre.
Right. No, we've been down the track. We know what we need to get, and it can be attached, and it has a transponder. It hooks up to the internet, so it's quite a great thing. But it's not inexpensive, and of course per use they get a percentage of that as well.
Yes.
But hey, that's all right. It's a sale that you wouldn't have had. That's how we look at it.
Yeah, and there is evolution. So I'll get in touch with you, Barb, and start to work out which is it technology more, or is it re-engineering more?
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks for that question, Barb, because it's just a great example of how, as Cara says a lot, not to rule anything out. Like there are always options, so it gives us a good context when we get some examples like that. So welcome, Alex. Thanks for joining us. We've just done a couple of updates around the group, but we're just checking in now to see what questions yourself and other members might have for either Leslie or Sandra or Cara. So do you have any burning questions you want to bring up for us this morning?
Not at the moment. It's more just keeping updated with what's going on and where it all fits in.
Great, thank you. And we've already identified that everything changes every day, and usually every Friday night really, really late for Sandra. She gets some sort of change she has to work her way through. So, Leslie, did you have your hand up, or were you just applauding the response from Cara? Because it's a...
I know you need a few more reactions there, don't we?
I'm the one that actually has a hand up, which is great, and then it does it in order. So. Yeah.
So I just really wanted to reiterate a couple of things that Cara said, just generally. It is really important. These businesses have really unique circumstances, and, you know, I hadn't really thought about the one that Barbara raised, which is really quite pertinent. And it's a little bit unusual, but it's always, as Cara often used the term, you know, don't self-exclude. And even if there isn't something that you fit into, the criteria doesn't match your need, it is important that I know about it, or my federal colleagues, because then we can pass it further up the chain to the Treasurer's office and say, look, you know, have you thought about doing this? We're hearing that these sort of businesses are missing out. And what we don't want is people to miss out. We want everybody to somehow be captured by at least one of those 35 different initiatives. To give you a really good example, you'll know that, for example, the beauticians as of are now allowed to open for retail sales. So they were one of the first businesses that were forced to close. So our local day spas, you know, Aqua Vitae, places like that. Now, I'm going to tell you the reason that they're now open for retail sales started in Port Macquarie, because one of them came to me and said, look, we absolutely understand why we shouldn't be open. We totally understand that, because it's very much a contact kind of business, you know, and it's one-on-one. But, you know, it's nearly Mother's Day. It's the biggest time of the year for us. That's when we sell all our gift vouchers and products. Can you please put this forward? So I was able to directly put that forward to Brad Hazard, and now every beautician across the state is clapping simply because of that. So I think it's just a really good example to demonstrate you do need to come forward and tell us about it. Now, I can't guarantee it was always going to happen, but in this case it did, and it was a great outcome for all of them. There are thousands of these businesses across New South Wales. So don't be shy about letting me know where there are issues, or where there are places and incidents where small business are not getting anything.
Wow, that's so good, Leslie, and it's a really good example of how, you know, these sorts of things, you know, bring them up on behalf of yourself and your industries and our community. And, you know, it's great to hear that sort of a message, Leslie, that if you don't ask, you don't get, and that both state and federal governments really genuinely want to help us. But it's hard to know until people tell us, hey, what about if we could do this? What about if we could do that? So some really good tangible examples there, both for the people on the screen this morning, as well as people who are watching it at a later time, at a more convenient time. So I appreciate that. Any questions from you, Donna? She may have stepped away.
Sorry, but
Yeah, right.
I'm doing other things at the moment.
Okay.
No, I'm just listening and taking. Yeah, nothing that's applicable to me at the moment.
Oh, that's great. So just possibly giving you food for thought as well, which is good. So sometimes you go off a session like this and then you think of something. So, you know, provoking people's thinking is another really good outcome of these sorts of sessions. But before we go into a wrap up, I'll just check with the whole group and see if anyone else has any more questions for the panel this morning. Okay. Barb's got her thinking face on. Okay, so what we might do is just go to just a final wrap up, because sometimes even just this conversation provokes other thinking and other ideas for the panel. So I'll just start with you, Sandra, and see if there's any sort of final words that you wanted to share with the group this morning.
Yeah, I think it's just important just to just keep a track on how your business is travelling, because it might be that you haven't met the 30% decline in March or April. However, you might forecast for May or June and going forward that your turnover will fall, and there is the opportunity to still opt in for JobKeeper up until the end of September. So if you're forecasting that your sales or your turnover for May will decline, then it's worth having a look at applying and making sure that you meet those criteria. And then the other thing was just the importance of record keeping. The legislation that came out Friday night was partly around the one in, all in rule, that you must offer to all eligible employees the opportunity to take part if you're nominating your business. So it's really important that opportunity has been advised to employees in writing within 7 days of nominating your business. And also the nomination forms are crucial if you're claiming the JobKeeper for your employees, just to make sure that you have those signed nomination forms returned.
Because my understanding, Sandra, is that you don't actually need to send in the nomination form. So what you're saying is just important to maintain your records for in case there's some later checks. And I know some of the questions I've had from clients, and I think we've touched on this maybe in a previous session, is that you basically, in order to qualify for JobKeeper, you can use your March or your April statistics year on year. But when you say that you need to lodge both your actuals for April and your forecast for May, that it is really important for you to lodge accurate figures without the fear that you're going to lose JobKeeper, because isn't that the way that the government's going to be able to track the rebuilding of local businesses and economy, rather than say, well, now we're going to take your JobKeeper away from you? Is that my understanding? Yeah.
That's correct. So once you meet that decline in your turnover, whether it's March, whether it's April, or whether it's forecast for the quarter of June, once you meet that requirement, then you're in. So you're in until the end of September. So there's not, the reporting requirement's not to check whether you're continually meeting that decline. It's really just to keep a measure on how the business is travelling.
Yeah. Which is great. And it'd be interesting to see what's done with that data in terms of, I'm sure you're interested in this as well, Leslie, in terms of local areas. So it'd be great for us to know, is our local community rebuilding at a good rate and so on, because that sort of data will be exciting for us to see how quickly we can recover. Because there's just nothing to compare to, is there? It's just such a, you know, I can see you nodding and smiling, Leslie, but I'm sure you love to hear the sound of us rebuilding and growing and coming back to where we were, especially considering these panels started because we were talking about bushfire recovery, and now we're talking, and drought recovery, and now we're talking about COVID recovery. But it's hard to set targets and to even know what sort of rate we're going to recover at when we've never been here before. Barb, I just saw your hand go up, so
yes. Sorry, I've just got one question. I've received from the Australian Taxation Office when we've gone for JobKeeper, and we've got a form, and I believe that's the last thing we have to do. Like,
is that the nomination form?
Yes, it says eligibility and the whole thing. We've gone through it and we've received this back from them, but probably until the money's in our account, I won't really believe that it's actually happened. You know, like I'm sure I did a forum the other day with a couple of micro businesses, and we were wondering if there was anything else that we had to produce.
So you need to continue to do your monthly reporting, Barb. So the applications to claim the payments opened up today in the business portal. So you can actually go in and confirm or reconfirm the eligibility of your employees, report your turnover for April and your forecast for May, confirm bank accounts and that type of thing, and declare that you've kept all of the records. And that needs to be done by the 7th of every month.
Right. So the fact that they've already asked for our bank account, we've got all the other details. We're into for this bit for the April part, and then we'll just keep. We should go into the portal again today and have another look. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes. So you actually need to apply for the payments and report that. It will bring up your bank account just for you to confirm that that's the correct account. And it should bring up the number of eligible employees based on your enrolment information and also from your single touch payroll. So.
Yeah, no, just one.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had a lot more involved not payroll, but system, and we've just gone back to very basic now. Just keep those accountancy costs down. Sorry to say that, and because I can do it myself, so we can just send those details to them.
Yeah. So it's a great question, Barb. So what Sandra's just clarified is that the first step was to register. Then we needed to enrol, and now we're at the point where we can apply. Okay. So it's important that everyone understands that enrolling isn't enough for the money to magically appear in your account. You do need to go onto the portal now and actually apply for the month of April. And there will be some questions that you need to answer.
Right. Okay. We'll do that for both businesses. Thank you very much.
And if you have any trouble, you know that it's money well invested if you did use an accountant like Sandra.
Absolutely. Okay, great.
And that's a great segue into you, Cara, because I know you've been doing a lot to help people navigate the steps. Yeah. Any final words?
Yeah, look, basically always have a conversation with trusted professionals in relation to if you're not, because it is evolving every day. Don't self-exclude. If you are outside the box, there are people you can contact and have those conversations. Leslie gave a perfect example of how special consideration and having conversations. And, you know, if the government doesn't know, they don't know. So it's important to, you know, if one of the best things we can have out of COVID is that we improve communication, and it's talking about your circumstances. And just remember, the more we start to hear of those reinvestment or reinventment of your organisation, how you have to change, then that can lead to other opportunities. So it's having those conversations. So continue doing your recovery plan, looking at those opportunities, apply for your job keepers, which will help with your cash flow, because then you'll get the money, the reimbursement, and just be aware it changes weekly.
Great. Thank you so much, Cara. And before we wrap up, I do want to just go back to Leslie, because I just want to hear any final words you've got, but also Leslie, I'm just keen for you to share the information that you've got about the grants that we touched on before we started this morning.
Sure, thanks Kayley. And look, I just want to say before I talk about that, I think we are so exceptionally lucky to have Sandra and Cara online to be able to share that knowledge. I think it's just incredible. And, you know, thank you to you both for the work that you're doing. I just really, on something that's really not COVID, but something that actually normally happens, is that this time of the year we have our community building partnerships grants, and I know that all of our HBWN women are involved with lots of community organisations and volunteer groups. So this is going on as normal, which is great news. So there's $300,000 up for grabs in our electorate, and they open today, and it's a really easy process. It's through a program called Smarty Grants. They open today and they close on the 12th of June. So if you know any organisation that is looking for some funding for infrastructure, just a small amount for the infrastructure, you want to upgrade canteen kitchen, for example, or a canteen in your local sports organisation, please give our office a call and we'll make sure we walk you through it and give you some examples of the sorts of things that you can apply for.
That's great, Leslie. Thank you so much. What a great thing for us to finish on this morning. Something really positive, and it just makes you feel good to remember that, you know, the great things that have always happened in our community are continuing to happen. Because you know, I mean, I'm an optimist at the best of times, but just really genuinely feels like we're coming out the other side, and you know, we're going to go back to whatever a new normal is, as Barb said. But it's so reassuring to be thinking about really positive things like that are still continuing to happen. And, you know, we keep getting this amazing weather and we keep hearing really great stories about what's happening in businesses. So just thank you, particularly thank both groups. One, the group of members that have joined us, because it gives us an element of reality. So, and for your generosity in sharing your specific question, Barb, because it gives us a context to talk around. So we're not just talking about information, we're actually able to apply it to what's relevant for you. And I'm sure the questions that you asked are definitely interesting to other members. So appreciate members joining us. To those who are listening to the recorded message, please feel free to join us on Monday mornings, because it's lovely to have some faces, and whether you just want to listen in or whether you want to ask specific questions, either is absolutely fine. But a big thank you to the panel, Sandra, Cara and Leslie. Really, really appreciate you taking time out on what I'm sure is a busy Monday morning. And once again, apologies from Kelly King, who's unable to make it this morning. So we'll be back again next Monday. So thanks again for listening and have a wonderful week.
That's great. Thank you. It's like having a staff meeting on a Monday morning, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Love you all. Bye.
Stop the recording now.